We have got the top tier of the royal family on the podcast this week. The Queen, Charles, Camilla, William, Kate. We've also got the bottom tier, Andrew. I say bottom tier in terms of his ranking in the royal family. That would be pretty fair, wouldn't it? Because he's not in it anymore, essentially.
Yep, not in it anymore, fighting this as a private citizen, but
Top tier,
also another week where we have had some fairly major developments.
Major legal developments on Prince Andrew. So welcome to the Royal Rota podcast, your weekly update on all things royal from ITV News, where every week you can either watch us on YouTube, hello if you are, or you can listen to us on your favourite podcast platform, be that Spotify, Apple. Where would this one get a podcast from? Are they Google Podcasts? I get mine from Apple or Spotify. So where would you also... iTunes?
iTunes.
They do podcasts? I'm showing... No, anyway. Welcome.
Welcome.
Wherever you're listening or watching or
let us know.
Whatevering from, you can also watch it on our website, itv.com/news. So many options. It's just amazing. We're not here to talk about viewing options. We're here to talk about the royals. And I presume that we should probably start with Queen. She's top.
We're going to do it that way, are we?
We're going to do it that way.
Okay.
And which kind of means we'll do Andrew last. But then he's had his limelight. Or I might change my mind halfway through the podcast.
Okay.
Now, you will note, in fact, you told me just before we started recording that we did say on this podcast last week or the week before, the Queen's definitely going to go to Sandringham for Accession Day. What happened?
The Queen has gone to Sandringham.
For Accession Day.
Yeah, so
we don't know for sure.
As you'll remember, she didn't spend Christmas at Sandringham as we were all anticipating because of the huge surge in Omicron cases pre-Christmas. Plans were changed and she decided that she would stay at Windsor. But in the last week, she has moved from Windsor to Sandringham.
Sunday, wasn't it? She helicoptered up there. And arrived at Sandringham. Now, there's some talk about, is she staying at Wood Farm? Is she staying at the main house? Or is she staying at remember that other house that's down the road somewhere, little thing? Did we see it once on our little tour? No, I'm thinking of Balmoral.
You're thinking of Balmoral. You're thinking of Creggowan, aren't you?
I am thinking of the wrong place. Should we start again? So the Queen, is she staying at the main house or in Wood Farm?
No, she's staying at Wood Farm, which is where Prince Philip spent much of his retirement. He retired in August 2017 and he spent the majority of his time at Wood Farm until the pandemic hit, and then he moved to Windsor Castle to join the Queen.
And of course, this is her first Accession Day without her husband.
Yeah, Accession Day is always traditionally marked privately for the Queen, a moment of reflection. Even this year, 70 years on from taking the throne, it will still be a moment of quiet reflection.
Big deal though this year. I mean, because we mark Accession Day every year. Neither of us were doing the job when she marked 60 years.
I thought you were going to say when she took the throne. And I was thinking, no,
No, I wasn't. I wasn't really alive then. But. Yeah, neither of us did this job when it was the Diamond. I think, did we do this when it was the 65th? We did, and there was a name for that, and I can't remember what it was now.
Sapphire?
Sapphire? Possibly. But yeah, this is the big one, isn't it? This is the big Jubilee year. The
big Jubilee year, but she will still mark it privately at Sandringham, which is where her father, King George VI, died, which is why she likes to be there. Traditionally, she spends Christmas there and then continues her stay at Sandringham until after that date.
Now, I hear from my sources that there are other members of the royal family currently at Sandringham, so maybe, who knows whether they will still be there on Accession Day, or who knows what they're going to get up to this weekend. But you would have thought that some members of the family would want to pay tribute to the Queen at some point between now and the 6th of Feb, wouldn't you? Yeah,
you would expect. I mean, obviously we've got the big celebrations later in the year, the big main Jubilee weekend in June. We've also got the horse show, Royal Windsor Horse Show. There'll be an extravaganza there every evening. But you would expect something to mark this moment. It's such a milestone moment for the Queen. I don't think it will pass without it being marked in some regard.
Correct, and we will wait to see. The guns, however, are all being fired on the Monday because they can't be fired on the Sunday, because February the 6th is a Sunday this year, and it means all the gun salutes at Hyde Park in Tower of London.
Yeah, they wait
and
until
Edinburgh
the Monday.
Castle.
Yeah.
Boom. There's always 41, 42.
And
some more for some other reasons.
Yeah.
I never know if they fire different regiments fire different guns at different times, don't they?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So,
We will bring you all the gun news at some point in the future when I've got my head around them. So that's the Queen. She's had no other engagements or Zooms or anything
no,
this
she's
week that we're
traditionally
aware
this
of. And
time of
this
year.
is her quiet time.
It's
isn't it?
her quiet time, and interesting that she's decided to go to Wood Farm, which is much more low key than the big house. It's where people describe it as that they can be, or when Philip was alive and they spent time there, they could be much more normal. It's kind of less airs and graces at Wood Farm.
Yeah, you don't need as many staff to sort of open up Wood Farm as you do to open up the house. But I do hear that her private secretary is there with her. So court has effectively moved from Windsor to Sandringham. If there were to be a flag in Sandringham, it would presumably be flying. I don't even know whether Wood Farm has a flagpole from which to
whether it goes at the main house. I don't know.
I don't know this, but it wouldn't be at Windsor anymore. Obviously.
If the court has moved,
I think
then
there was
wherever
a
the court
moment,
is,
wasn't there, when she went up for a private weekend in.
I think November. She went for a
November.
private weekend, so the flag remained at Windsor because they said that the court was still at Windsor.
If we're doing this in order, we should do Prince Charles next. Now, the reason why I'm going to stick to that order is because the thing that he did was very important. Today, the day we're recording this, is Holocaust Memorial Day. We mentioned a bit about the Holocaust last week because you might recall that we went with the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, to the Anne Frank Trust, where we spoke about racism and everything that the Anne Frank Trust does to combat intolerance and prejudice. Holocaust Memorial Day, I mean, how do you even begin to remember the horrors of what happened? But the way in which Prince Charles has done it has been through these portraits, which are now being exhibited at Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, at the Queen's Gallery. He commissioned 7 portraits of 7 Holocaust survivors to be displayed at the Queen's Gallery, and then I think they're also going to be displayed up at the Palace of Holyrood House. So he went to the Queen's Gallery on Monday earlier this week, and he got to meet the survivors, but also those that painted their portraits.
One of them was Ziggy Shipper, that we've met before, haven't we?
Yeah.
On a number of occasions, and this is what, and they are all, as you will expect, becoming more advanced in their years, of course, if all the survivors of the Holocaust. But this is what Ziggy Shipper said to ITV.
I remember everything from the camps, when I was in one camp, in Auschwitz, in Stutthof, in Stolp, all different places. But I remembered it, I don't remember certain things enough from yesterday or today, but that I remember like it was now. And I think it's so important now, because if nobody starts talking about it, eventually, within a few years, it'll be gone. Nobody will know about it.
And Prince Charles wrote in the foreword, didn't he? There's a kind of booklet to accompany
the exhibition, and he explains sort of why he commissioned these. And he said that I think this is really poignant. Actually, he said that these portraits represent something far greater than 7 remarkable individuals. They stand as a living memorial to the 6 million innocent men, women and children whose stories will never be told, whose portraits will never be painted.
And I think that's, that 6 million figure, and whenever, like when we, for example, went to Yad Vashem, the official memorial in Jerusalem, I think I'm right in saying that Yad Vashem means something like a place and a name, and it's all about remembering that these are 6 million individuals, not 6 million, because it's just too big a number to comprehend. So,
I think the Prince of Wales hopes that this exhibition is sort of a permanent reminder to people what happened and those atrocities, so that they can never be forgotten.
Remarkable that there are still, well, there were any survivors, but remarkable that there are still those living survivors that he was able to speak to. Camilla was, I thought, again, this is an area of work that Camilla is very, very committed to, isn't it? And we've done some of the events before on domestic violence and domestic abuse, an issue that's particularly severe during the lockdown period when women were effectively imprisoned with their abusers. And she was marking the 50th anniversary of the charity Refuge, because the very first Refuge was back in 1971, I think it was.
Yeah.
She went on a private visit, didn't she?
She went on a private visit earlier in the day to the charity, to the Refuge you're talking about, and then she held a reception at Clarence House where she's spoken a lot about this. She has done a lot of very powerful speeches. Do you remember that one that she gave at Women of the World last year that we spoke about? And again, she spoke at this engagement, and she was talking about how, thanking everyone for the vital work they do. And she sort of said, I hope you don't mind me, none of you will mind me saying that I really hope that eventually there is no need for charities such as Refuge. But
the need is quite great at the moment, and that's and she said in her speech, didn't she, that actually she is sad to report that the need for Refuge is greater than ever.
This morning I visited the first Refuge in Chiswick. It was abundantly clear that it remains a beacon of hope and healing for its inhabitants. I heard encouraging stories of the immediate practical difference that survivors have seen from the recent changes in the law, and from the determination and bravery of everyone who is fighting to protect those living with abuse. All of you who work in the field of domestic abuse will be the first to say that you look forward to the day when your service is no longer needed. Today, then, we are marking rather than celebrating your 50th anniversary. Let's use it as a milestone to galvanise and inspire us all towards a world where women and children can live in safety, free from fear. Finally, I would like to thank you all for what you've done over the last half century, and beg you to carry on your vital work to ensure that the next 50 years will see, hopefully, the end of domestic abuse ever.
Now, if you were to go onto our Instagram page, ITV News Royals, you will see that there is, you can probably see it on the phone there, a picture of Camilla talking to Zara McDermott, who is a former contestant on Love Island, who herself campaigns a lot on the issue of image-based abuse. It's something that she suffered from, isn't it?
Yeah, she has recently presented a BBC documentary on the subject of revenge porn, which is how she has become involved with the charity and why she was at the reception and wanting to highlight the issue.
Actually, if you look at Zara's Instagram page, she talks about the absolute honour of meeting the Duchess of Cornwall. I can't even believe today happened. Thank you to everyone who made it possible. I'm honoured to stand side by side in our joint mission to eradicate violence towards women. And I think that's important, isn't it? Because as much as a reach that Camilla might have as a member of the royal family, it's important to remember that there are social media influencers who can reach a different constituency out there and spread that message to them, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, as we've said, it's something that the Duchess of Cornwall is so sort of dedicated to and will do, has committed to doing whatever she can to help and, bringing people like Zara together to try and raise as much awareness as possible.
Yes, and on her Instagram page, I don't often comment on dresses. She's written a royally fabulous day wearing pink for Refuge charity, of course. So if we have that picture and you're watching on YouTube, you're probably seeing it right.
How many followers does Zara have?
How many followers does Zara have? Good question. So if I hit that button, 1.6 million.
So 1.6 million that maybe wouldn't have heard about it otherwise. Zara has managed to reach a different audience.
Shall we talk? I tell you what. Should we jump off the seniority list, and we probably should talk about this stack of papers that I've got in front of me. It's just me, another 11 pages of tree that we've had to print out.
Yeah.
So, how do we already talk about Prince Andrew? What happened with Prince Andrew this week? Essentially, what this is here, 11 pages of his formal response to Virginia Giuffre's complaint with a capital C, which was her lawsuit that she filed in August.
Yeah, 73 point-by-point responses to that
responses, and then
so
another
that's
sort of 11 defences. There's no one on.
Yeah, 11 reasons why the case should be dismissed. And on the majority of the responses, on the kind of the point-by-point responses he gives, it's either denies the allegations or lacks sufficient information to admit or deny the allegations. And sort of it goes, much of it reads like that, doesn't it?
Here we go. This is her complaint, Virginia Giuffre's complaint from August, and like his paragraphs match hers. Like she says in paragraph 1, this suit arises out of the defendant's sexual abuse of plaintiff when she was under the age of 18 years old. The Duke's paragraph 1, Prince Andrew denies the allegations contained in paragraph 1 of the complaint, and so it goes on and on. A few things to pick out from it. I thought that it's something that that caught our attention, but also is on the front page of all the papers, was the very last thing here, where Prince Andrew hereby demands a trial by jury on all causes of action asserted in the complaint. Now, that's, lawyers tell me in America, is not unusual. That's pretty formal, pretty standard. It's just that it just jumps out at you, isn't it? It's Prince Andrew, brackets, son of Queen Elizabeth II, close brackets, demands a trial by jury in a lawsuit alleging very serious matters.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's legal terminology or not, it is written in black and white that the Queen's son is demanding a trial in a sexual assault case. I mean, that's why it is on the front page of every paper, because this case is extraordinary.
Yes, isn't it? So that jumps out at you. Also, that there is a reference, well, a kind of reference to the photo, the photo. You'll all be aware of the now infamous photo of Prince Andrew with his arm allegedly around Virginia Giuffre, which was apparently taken by Jeffrey Epstein, or so claims Virginia, in the house of Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, so therefore, if you go to like page point 38 of Virginia's complaint, it says the photograph below depicts Prince Andrew, plaintiff, and Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Maxwell's home prior to Prince Andrew sexually abusing plaintiff. Now, that is her allegation in her complaint. So you go to point 28 of Prince Andrew's reply, and it's Prince Andrew lacks sufficient information to admit or deny the allegations contained in paragraph 38. Kind of leaving open the possibility of what do they do about this picture, wasn't it? And something that we spoke to Mitch Epner about, a sort of former federal prosecutor in the US, and it was his view, wasn't it, that actually the photograph is one of the best assets that the plaintiff has.
It was unusual. The response to the picture, the photograph that was included in the complaint, was unusual because he neither admitted nor denied the accuracy of the photograph, nor of the allegation in the paragraph surrounding it that he assaulted the plaintiff. Instead, he said that he didn't have sufficient information. And you can contrast that to his admitting later in the same document that he in fact was photographed with Jeffrey Epstein in Central Park of New York in 2010. So what it says to me is that they don't yet know on the defense side how they want to handle that photograph. So they're trying to save that for another day. And I believe that that photograph is the single biggest asset that the plaintiff has in this lawsuit.
And talking of lawyers, there was another lawyer who spoke to us about this whole issue of demanding a trial by jury, wasn't there? Because actually, whilst we said that's pretty standard, if Virginia Giuffre wants a trial by jury and later she withdraws that, Prince Andrew can always say, look, I demanded a trial by jury and therefore I am entitled to one.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. Other things of note in this, I think, is one of the 11 reasons why the Duke believes this should be dismissed. Giuffre's complaint should be dismissed because this court lacks subject matter jurisdiction over the action due to Giuffre's improper assertion of diversity jurisdiction, notwithstanding that she is a permanent resident of Australia and not a domiciliary of Colorado.
Right. So in other words, this court can't rule on this matter because she doesn't live in the United States, she lives in Australia.
Yeah, in a federal court, only one of the parties can be
Outside,
international.
right.
And currently, Andrew's team are going to argue that Prince Andrew lives in the UK and Virginia Giuffre lives in Australia. She says, I've lived in Colorado for a couple of years.
But there's something, didn't I read somewhere that she's applied to vote or apply for the right to vote in Colorado, which is where her parents live or something. But
it does sound, it suggests from this and from conversations we've had that the motion to pursuing a motion to dismiss based on
a legal technicality
on where Virginia lives, they could still pursue
Yes.
that. That is not.
We were told, weren't we, but by Prince Andrew's office or aides in his office that remains a point of interest for them. But also in this list, it talks about the doctrine of unclean hands. Now, I kind of had to look this up. I'm not a lawyer, and lawyers might know this better than I do, but the doctrine of unclean hands is basically saying that he's alleging that his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, herself acted unethically in terms of the sex trafficking operation that Jeffrey Epstein was running. That's alleging that she was one of those who tried to procure other girls to come into the sex trafficking operation, which she herself denies, or I think she said previously that was based under sort of coercion.
And actually, David, sorry, Karen.
I think what I mean, it basically suggests that he's going to throw everything at this, as you kind of would expect.
Yeah.
But that's why it's going to be very unpleasant, and that's obviously why the Queen 2 weeks ago decided we need to stop this. We need to cut him out of the royal family. He needs to
fight this as a private citizen. Yeah. But on that point, Virginia's lawyer, David Boyes, he responded in a statement last night saying, Prince Andrew's answer continues his approach of denying any knowledge or information concerning the claims against him and purporting to blame the victim of the abuse for somehow bringing it on herself. We look forward to confronting Prince Andrew with his denials and attempts to blame Miss Giuffre for her own abuse at his deposition and at trial.
Which is a short way of saying see you in court.
See you in court. Now, I think, although we've got all of this and it says demands a trial by jury, he can still settle this at any point, right up until trial. He can still decide.
Both sides can.
Both sides
if
can.
Both sides agree.
If both sides
settle.
agree.
Yes.
But he can decide at any point he wants to offer that.
Yes. And I suppose one of the other things that they've got to consider is how the judge has reacted thus far to Prince Andrew's attempts to either sort of not have the papers served on him or to have this case dismissed on a legal technicality, all to do with that Florida lawsuit in 2009. One criminal lawyer in the United States told us that actually looking at it, Prince Andrew might actually prefer to go with a jury rather than have this thing tried by a judge.
Juries are generally a little bit more receptive to plaintiffs, and the defendants often would rather just have a trial in front of the judge. However, this judge has not been so friendly to Andrew thus far, so I think they are not taking any kind of risk that jury trial would be waived should they get to that point.
So the wheels of this legal case keep turning. We're in that kind of deposition phase, as Lizzie was saying about David Boyes, Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, kind of saying, I look forward to sort of challenging Prince Andrew on these things through the deposition. Will it get that far? Possibly. Possibly not. I mean...
Yeah, David Boyes was described to us by one lawyer as possibly the best deposition taker of a generation. And if Prince Andrew sits for deposition via video with David Boyes, he could face up to 7 hours of questioning.
Ouch. Well, not ouch, he might be fine, but I don't know. We should say, as we always do, and as is right, because every person is innocent until proven otherwise, that Prince Andrew denies vehemently the allegations against him and says that he never recalls meeting Virginia Giuffre. Prince Andrew done. Now, I'll let you decide where we go next, because I always make the decisions on the progress of this podcast. So why don't you do the next one?
Well, shall we talk about where we've just been?
Yes, which is with Prince William.
Prince William
on
at BAFTA.
Piccadilly,
Yep.
in London, BAFTA. A very good sort of mentoring scheme that they've got running in BAFTA, talking about coronavirus as well. He also mentioned the bar a couple of times, I remember.
Yeah, so BAFTA headquarters in Piccadilly has just been refurbished. So he was there to sort of mark the official reopening of the headquarters. And while he was there, he heard a lot about the mentoring schemes that they have going on. And he is also, it's been announced, given his name to a bursary scheme to help underprivileged and talented future stars. And it's called the Prince William BAFTA Bursary Fund.
Now, he was also sitting in a very nice auditorium. I kind of quite fancied one of these little mini cinemas in my own house. But we counted, was it 50 or 60 seats in there?
Do you need a cinema with 50 or 60
Well, you know, I
seats
thought
in
in
your
one
house?
of the wings of my house, I thought I would sort of install it. You know,
Yeah.
maybe a swimming pool in the other wing.
Tennis court.
Tennis court, obviously,
and
I need
the
a pool
theatre.
room, a games room.
Games
I think.
room,
But
yeah.
and I thought, you know,
A 50-seater
a
theatre.
50-seater auditorium,
Okay.
a movie theatre,
Sure.
is kind of what I need. Now you sat in the aforementioned movie theatre, and you were mixing with stars, weren't you?
Yes, so Saran Jones, who is one of sort of Britain's best actresses. She's known for Dr. Foster, for
What's the
Vigil.
thing in the sea, under the sea? Vigil, submarine.
And
one.
she is a mentor to Lily, who we also met.
Yes.
And
Oh, you forgot to mention that I saw her on Gogglebox recently.
you saw her on Gogglebox.
She was. Well,
Yes.
not only on Gogglebox, as in her character in Vigil was put into a torpedo tube. Can't be very nice. I'd get a bit Would you get a bit claustrophobic in a torpedo tube?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Anyway, she got out. But so people were Gogglebox people. If you obviously know how Gogglebox works, were commenting on it. But then she appeared as a sort of actual Goggleboxer, as in a watcher. So with her on-screen partner, I think, or not on-screen partner, whatever. So she's she's very famous. And
Very
Lizzie
famous.
got to do the interview with her and her mentee.
Lily, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a brilliant scheme, and you know, Saran was also talking about how it's been brilliant for her as well to have a greater understanding of people sort of coming into the industry and to be able to give something back.
And they were telling Prince William the way they were matched up is because actually they're both from, you know, they're not from middle class backgrounds. They didn't go to acting school and all the rest of it. So actually they're quite well matched, which was something they were telling you.
Yeah, which we can listen to a clip from.
I think you think everything is bigger than it is when you're kind of just starting out in this industry, and you think that people are these untouchable, unreachable things, all the contacts and the stars and the directors, and you don't kind of see yourself within that world. And really, it's about kind of taking all of that away and saying, no, you are part of that world, and the reason why you are here is because people want you and your talent for you.
You know, I'm from a working class background, and so I'm also a woman, and the industry wants to give opportunities to, you know, demographics that don't get that opportunity, and the industry isn't as accessible. It just brings a level of humanity to the process of getting into a career that you love and admire but have no idea how to start. It gives you someone to talk to. It adds kindness to the process, like I said, and humanity. And Saran's been so lovely, and it just makes you feel at ease and gives you confidence in yourself to actually pursue what you want to pursue.
What does it mean to the industry, do you think, Prince William being here and shining a light on schemes like the mentoring scheme?
For him to take a genuine interest in the arts, as well as the mentoring scheme, just to kind of have someone like him supporting us in that our stories, for whether it's documentaries or whether it's film or TV, they are a way to talk to people, and it's so important that people connect with the arts, and so to have him support us to continue, especially after COVID, I think that's great.
You forgot to mention the bar. Or he didn't.
He didn't forget to mention the
A couple of
bar.
times. What did he say? Like, kind of the bar had used to be here and it didn't move.
It
He
sounded
looked
like
rather
he was talking about
disappointed in the fact that there was no bar.
Yeah, the bar used to be in the room that we were in,
And it wasn't there anymore.
And he hoped it wasn't too far away.
Yeah.
Someone said, "Oh no, it's just."
I think I found it upstairs, by the way, when you were doing those interviews. I went
Oh,
for a
did you?
wander around and I found the bar. They just weren't serving
You went
any
to find the
alcohol.
bar.
It didn't
Was
serve any
Prince-
alcohol. It was a dry bar on that afternoon. But anyway, you can tell Prince William next time you see him that the bar.
That we found the bar and it's fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
If
the bar.
dry.
Actually, I suppose at Kensington Palace, he's got enough room to put in an auditorium, should he so wish.
Yeah, I'm sure he
I mean,
would.
there's enough rooms there. He'd have to kick out one of his great aunt or great uncles or second cousins or whatever who also.
Yeah.
Because Kensington Palace is this sort of hodgepodge. It's not just obviously where William and Kate live and their family. There's like the Duke of Gloucester, am I right? Lives there as well, or lived. There's lots of others in that complex. It's like a housing complex, isn't it? Kensington Palace.
Housing complex.
Not social housing complex. Anyway, I digress. But he could put in an auditorium if he so wished. Kate, however, she was she was out and about at Shout. What's Shout?
Shout is a mental health tech service that was launched by the Cambridge and backed by their Royal Foundation in 2019. And the reason that she was there this week is because they have just had their 1 million text conversations.
Yes, Shout is like you if you don't want to pick up the phone and talk to someone, you can text someone. And they've got a bank of volunteers who are trained to sort of answer those things by text.
Yeah, and on that, because the demand has grown so much during the pandemic, I think it's increased by 140% since the start of the pandemic, they need more volunteers to sign up for the service. And do you remember in the lockdown, Prince William revealed that he was a Shout volunteer or had trained as a Shout volunteer?
I remember that very well. Yeah, he basically had trained. Actually, he did a couple of shifts, didn't he? I remember him saying they did a couple of shifts as a Shout volunteer. So well done to him, because that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a service that has obviously is obviously needed because they have had such demand for it during the pandemic and as we kind of come out of the pandemic. So if you want to contact Shout, it's free to start a conversation and you text Shout to 85258. There we go.
Their Twitter handle is Shout85258, but the @ sign is @GiveUsAShout. So and they've got some images there of their royal visit, which they had on Wednesday. Funny enough, I was just looking at social media there, and on the Clarence House page, it had a little video of Prince Charles, and this Holocaust exhibition that we talked about earlier is part of a BBC series, isn't it? That's being shown today.
Yeah.
And how in following the different what if you're a portrait artist?
I guess the artists and the sitters, I think, is how they've been described.
Yes, who did the portraits, and like I say, we've met people like Ziggy Shipper and Manfred Goldberg and things before, haven't we?
Yeah, do you remember we met them in?
That was just sort of looping away, and I might actually try and repost that on, even though it's got the BBC in it.
Very special about the portrait and about the artist's eye.
There we go. So this is now. How do I stop it? Oh no, just go up. But also, while I was there, it reminded me, because we were on the Clarence House. You don't know where I'm going with this, do you?
I have no idea where you're going with this. It reminded me, and
it reminded me of the Clarence House. What did Prince Charles speak also about this week?
Hedges.
Hedges.
It's important to replant, try to restore them.
He's also been talking about hedges. Now, I don't know why that wasn't at the top of our podcast this week. Prince Charles talks about hedges. Hedges, by the way, are very important.
They are, and they are
biodiversity.
They are.
In farms and stuff, and actually better to have insects sort of killing things than pesticides and all the rest of it. So Prince Charles has been talking about hedgerows, and I cannot believe that we nearly got through this podcast without getting to that point.
Well, you've remembered and saved us.
Quite so. I've saved you. I wonder if Prince Charles had any haggis this week for
Burns
night. So happy Burns night if you did celebrate Burns night on Tuesday, I think it was. So and if you had haggis,
you must have in your house. You have.
I did. Well, sometimes I do, and previously I've had vegetarian haggis, which some people sort of like raise an eyebrow at because haggis isn't really known for its vegetarianness.
No.
But actually, it was quite nice.
Oh.
Anyway, so happy Burns night, and we can't really tell you about anything happening next week, can we? We know some things.
We do know some things.
We know lots of things, actually.
But yeah, we are sworn to secrecy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we will bring you all that information.
Oh gosh,
turn this
stop
off.
it.
Stop. Hold on.
Stop it.
Stop. I'm just going to come off Instagram.
Come off it.
We will see you on the podcast next week. Thank you very much for watching.